Hello, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Charlie Liberman. It turns out that Tina and I are both here for the same reason, in the sense that as undergraduates, me at Harvard and Tina at MIT, our mentors at the time told us we ought to go talk to this guy named Nelson Kang over at the Mass Eye. And each of us did, and each of us fell into the web that he wove. And I never got out. Tina got out, but it took her 30 years. So I first met Tina in 1992 when she had the courage to join the inaugural class of the program in speech and hearing sciences that Nelson had formed at HST. She spent the next 7 years getting a PhD, working on the neurophysiology of the auditory nerve, and also getting an MD from Harvard Medical School. She then spent the next 7 years doing a residency program here at the Mass Eye, 2 years of which included another research stint at Children's Hospital working on the molecular biology of neurotrophins. And then after that, she spent another 2 years doing a neurotology fellowship here with Mike McKenna. So after 16 years of postgraduate training, we figured she was ready to join the Eaton Peabody Lab. And we invited her in as faculty, and she joined the faculty here at the Mass Eye, clinical faculty. And starting in 2008, she spent the next 12 years making a meteoric rise through the ranks, doing teaching and research and clinical care. And she would have set a record for the fastest promotion from assistant to full professor, but then she got recruited to Stanford to be the chair of the department. So we lost her a few years ago, but Tina's a whirlwind. She does everything, and she does it all well, including public speaking, as I'm sure you're about to hear. Tina.
Thank you for such a beautiful and kind introduction, Charlie. So we are all gathered here today to celebrate the fresh beginning for Massachusetts Eye, its 3rd century. We are all thinking about wide open possibilities, new vistas, and breakthroughs to come. And it's hard to make predictions, especially about the future. As people as different as Niels Bohr and Yogi Berra have said to have concluded. And yet, I think that it makes sense to examine the past and identify big, overarching narratives that are likely to guide and structure our beloved institution in the future. So let's delve into the Massachusetts Eye and Ear Infirmary original logo. Crafted at a cost of $10, the equivalent of $320 today, it bears the Latin inscription, "The deaf hear, the blind see, with the help of God." This powerful message, inspired by the Gospel of Matthew, acknowledges that healing of major ailments is a divine intervention. And in the center of this, you see a rising sun. It's a symbol of hope and new beginnings. And I particularly favor the interpretation of the sun rising over waves, because waves, whether sound or light, are the universal language of the cosmos. So this new institution, from the very beginning, decided to tackle audaciously tasks that were previously thought to be outside of the realm of the human capability. And it did so for the people of Boston, for the community. And these people often could not afford a fraction of the healthcare costs. And it took the Commonwealth 20 years to recognize the steady stream of benefits coming from the Massachusetts Eye and Ear to start to support it financially and provide some stability during trying times. So the forefathers, Doctors Reynolds and Jeffries, were visionaries who broadened the mission to include education of junior colleagues as soon as it was financially possible. So the first trainees in 1836 were Dr. Bethune and Dr. Hooper. And this speaks of the foresight and dedication of the founding fathers who set the institution for its future success. And then 50 years later, the mission was broadened to include research. Now, the work of another Dr. Hooper, a laryngologist. And this speaks of the confidence and of commitment to start investing in an endeavor that will take decades to bear fruit and affect people worldwide. So this is where I see a similarity between the waves in the Massachusetts Pioneer logo and the rich maritime history of Boston. Training next generation of surgeons is a most selfless task by an institution teetering on the edge of solvency. And this newly formed ship, called Massachusetts Eye and Ear Infirmary, will boldly go to the open sea and achieve global success and relevance. So the forefathers knew full well that ships are safest in the harbor, but that's not what ships are built for, as John Shedd would remark years later. And when thinking about the importance of an institution which is now entering its third century, it begs the question of what is the role of tradition in a surgical and medical field? Does modernity render long history cute but irrelevant for the present and maybe the future? Well, I would strongly argue against such oversimplification and unsupported presentism. Having called Massachusetts Eye and Ear home for 30 years, both as a student and a teacher, I would argue that tradition in surgery and medical research is not a simple repetition of what was learned in the past, but rather active re-experiencing of the spirit of exploration in the present. Such tradition is living and creative. It intertwines the freedom to discover with the desire to help our patients, while using the accomplishments of our illustrious predecessors as a demanding but fair yardstick for our own efforts. So we graduates of the Massachusetts Eye and Ear Infirmary are not in the Mass Eye and Ear's tradition simply by virtue of displaying diplomas prominently in our offices, but rather by providing daily care as clinicians, researchers, and educators, and imparting this spirit of professional responsibility and joyous freedom to our successors and patients. Tradition also allows us to recognize the momentous developments that have occurred here and to value our outstanding teachers who have made innumerable contributions, and many of these teachers are sitting in the audience today. And for me, the inexhaustible tradition of Massachusetts Eye and Ear is its critical spirit, which has enriched our profession for decades and centuries. So what do we see in the future of Mass Eye and Ear and our profession at large? What will be our message in a bottle to our colleagues who will be assembling to celebrate the 4th century of Mass Eye and Ear? Some transformative, epoch-defining developments are on the horizon, and some are happening already. You may have noticed that Chat ENT was launched less than a year after the historic launch of ChatGPT. So does it mean that we are about to being diminished and eventually replaced by some form of AI? Well, some people in my current zip code are working on and counting on exactly this outcome. I have a much more optimistic view of our profession. And this is where the Mass Eye and Ear tradition comes in, with its focus on patient well-being and its tripartite mission of clinical care, research, and education. Walter Benjamin, a tragic victim of Nazism in Europe, 100 years ago predicted that the very nature of art will be transformed by the widespread use of photography and movies. And this is an excerpt from his essay. What's really interesting here is if you change the word art to the word healthcare, it may be telling us what's coming for us. And in particular, the very nature of healthcare and its perception will be transformed as some portions will be turned into commodity and some portions of the craft will be diminished or destroyed. So how will we not become obsolete? I think it's by maintaining and strengthening what Benjamin refers to as the aura. And in our case, it's the aura of patient-doctor relationship. It includes the atmosphere of transcendent humanity and healing powers, and it also includes the legitimacy bestowed upon it by the millennia of its historical existence, because people have been seeking other humans as healers. Does it mean that we should become indifferent to the ongoing technical advances? Not at all. On the contrary, in the true spirit of the Massachusetts pioneer tradition, we have to be leaders in convergent science, which focuses on solving deep societal and medical needs by customizing and deploying a variety of different technologies from many different fields to catalyze discovery and innovation. Of course, we have to remember our Hippocratic Oath. Standing in opposition to the Aesculapian god physician, Hippocrates had a much more humanistic perspective. He said doctors should possess all noble characteristics of outstanding philosophers: altruism, kindness, and modesty. Half the world away, in ancient China, a similar sentiment was expressed, emphasizing that physicians must maintain a sense of mercy and that a physician should never discriminate their patients based on their social status. So Massachusetts Pioneer is already a global brand because people flock here from across the world as patients, researchers, trainees. We in the west of the country are well known for our propensity to doubt the relevance or even existence of boundaries to what is possible. And yet, we recognize the centrality of the Massachusetts Eye and Ear's gift of unfettered freedom in research, clinical care, and education. So what are my predictions for Massachusetts Eye and Ear for the next 100 years? They are organized along the 3 mission areas. Clinically, the Mass Eye and Ear's surgical and medical teams will continue to speak truth to power, remembering to take care of the weakest in their communities while being kind, patient, gentle, responsible, and respectful. Research-wise, Mass Eye and Ear will continue to conduct and disseminate consequential science and technology, and building on the successes in translational research exemplified by Boston Medical, Decibel, and Akuos, the next generation of Mass Eye and Ear nurtured companies will be even bigger in size and reach. And perhaps ENT Vidya is already on the horizon, a global leader in sensory regeneration and augmentation. And educationally, Massachusetts Eye and Ear will continue to train and nurture servant leaders. They serve because they're leaders, and they're leaders because they serve. These Massachusetts Eye and Ear groomed leaders share power. They prioritize the needs of their patients, colleagues, and staff, and they help everyone to achieve their greatest potential. And by doing so, they are unleashing regenerative forces in their communities and organizations. So going back to the nautical theme in the Massachusetts Pioneer logo, I see great adventures and accomplishments in its future. John Quincy Adams, who became the 6th president of the United States a year after Massachusetts Pioneer was founded, said, "If your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are a leader." So happy anniversary, Massachusetts Pioneer, and audacious sailing for the next 200 years. Thank you.